A fan said that this phone hasn't been fixed even after half a year of repairs. This is an iPhone 12 sent by a fan from New York. He said it's his wife's phone. It suddenly wouldn't turn on while being used normally. Took it to after-sales service, and they said it needed a motherboard replacement. At that time, he felt the price was unacceptable. Moreover, after replacing it, all the data inside would be lost. The technician at the service center happened to know him. He suggested finding someone else to help repair it. Unexpectedly, this repair took half a year. A few days ago, he came across a video of me and Master Tony repairing phones. Only then did he remember he had such an iPhone 12. So he went to get it back from the repair shop, sent it to me. Let's see if the lucky Master Tony can help rescue it. After we opened it, we found the shielding cover on the motherboard was loose. It wasn't soldered properly. It fell off with a slight touch. We first connected it to a power supply meter to test. After powering on, we found the motherboard was leaking electricity, but when pressing the power button, the screen could light up. After entering the main interface, the screen couldn't be touched. Could the screen also be broken? We replaced it with a known good screen and powered it on to test. Some people quietly watch the video, but they secretly like, comment, share, repost, and follow. Such people are so lovely, still couldn't touch. It seems the problem is still with the motherboard. We took out the motherboard to have a look, carefully observed, found that this position had solder bridging. The shielding cover stickers on the motherboard had been peeled off. There was a lot of solder flux in the middle, obviously. It had been separated into layers before. Under the microscope, we looked at this position. It's this spot. It seems when soldering the shielding cover, this position got solder bridged. We opened the schematic diagram to check. This position happens to be responsible for touch power supply. No wonder the touch wasn't working. We first dealt with the solder bridging. Okay. Reassembled and tested again. After booting up, the touch function was normal, but entering settings to check, the phone's Wi-Fi couldn't be used. The baseband firmware was also missing. Now we could only extract data. The phone couldn't make calls, let alone access the internet. The iPhone 12 has a dual-layer motherboard. Wi-Fi and signal are handled on the lower layer. We first used a heating platform to separate the motherboard layers for inspection. After separating, we found the baseband chip had already been repaired. Repairing a second-hand phone really depends entirely on luck. First, we fixed the phone's leakage issue. After powering the upper motherboard, we used thermal imaging, found that this position was turning red and heating up. We switched modes to see clearly. The component heating up was the charging IC. We removed the charging IC and cleaned the solder pads, replaced it with a known good chip, then connected the power supply meter to test. Now the motherboard was no longer leaking electricity. Booting up was normal, but still without baseband and Wi-Fi. It's possible that the upper and lower motherboard layers weren't properly aligned. After dealing with the motherboard, we reballed the solder, then reattached the upper and lower motherboard layers. The battery was currently in a depleted state. We activated it, then installed the motherboard into the phone, tested again. After entering the system, testing found that Wi-Fi could be turned on normally, but the baseband component was still missing. Without fixing the baseband, the phone couldn't make or receive calls, so we took out the motherboard, separated the layers again for inspection. After separating, we carefully observed under the microscope. Found that a corner of the baseband code chip was broken. This code chip is equivalent to a key to enable the baseband function. Moreover, it's encrypted and irreplaceable. If it's broken, then this device can only serve as a game console, so we removed the tampered baseband chip, cleaned the solder pads, then placed the motherboard on the code chip tester to test. Found that the code chip couldn't be recognized. As expected, the code chip was probably broken. Too bad. This phone can only be used as a game console. Fortunately, the data was recovered. We continued to reset the baseband CPU, installed it back, then reattached the upper and lower motherboard layers, assembled and tested again to see if Wi-Fi could be turned on. When we booted up, the screen suddenly popped up with no SIM card installed. This situation means the baseband is working. We went into settings to check. Wi-Fi could be turned on normally. The baseband modem firmware also appeared. This darn luck has nothing to do with skill. We tested the camera and other functions, which were also normal, inserted a SIM card, made a call, found that there was no sound from the earpiece during testing. After turning on speakerphone, the main speaker could produce sound. We shut down again, removed the screen to check. The earpiece and top speaker are integrated on the screen. We disassembled and found that the earpiece had been replaced before. We removed it, replaced it with a known good earpiece. Earpiece damage is a common problem with the iPhone 12. Due to so many failures, the price of iPhone 12 earpieces has skyrocketed. After assembling, we tested again, made a call. The earpiece sound was normal. We continued to remove the motherboard, resoldered the missing shielding covers, installed new shielding cover stickers, did some finishing touches, then reinstalled the motherboard into the casing, applied new waterproof adhesive, finally cleaned the internal fingerprints. Okay, repair completed. Repairing phones, especially second-hand ones, luck is really very important in this aspect. We have to admire our Master Tony.